So what is your frame? Like, what is your frame? How are you communicating your brand, your product? Hey, Chris Sack with Media Options, help companies to acquire the raw version of the brand, broken to the best that means the planet. Check that out over at MediaOptions.com. Check out DNX.com and check out ChrisZeiger.com / podcast. I do a daily podcast over there. And this is just a thought, okay? I'm just having some fun today. It's Friday. I had a long week. I had a very productive week. Made a lot of money. But I had this conversation with someone. They came over to my office and we're walking through their frames. We're talking about framing and conversations and cold calling and warm calling and just my approach, okay? I've spent a lot of time trying to master this just simply because I wasn't successful. Like I had my career for the most part was in more business relationships. And so when I transitioned over into this aspect of sales, okay, domain names, I mean, it's not exactly the easiest call because it's not on people's minds. I had to think differently. And it's interesting, there was like 4 people that really stuck out at me and helped me in this process. One was Russell Brunson. I think he's an amazing marketer. Second was Garrett White. It truly helped me to think about frames. Oren Klaff, I think he's amazing. I've read his books over and over and over again. And then Jordan Belfort are the 4, I would say 4 individuals that really impacted me the most. Jordan Belfort just on how he sells and his philosophy on selling. And I've spent a lot of money on each of these authors and each of their systems. So the first thing I like when this person came in, I was like, okay, well, what's your frame, right? Like, how do you view? I don't know if you can see that, and if you can't, I don't really care, but I hope you can. But it's like, what's the frame? What's the way that you communicate your message? And you have to do this in a very simple way. Now, Russell Brunson did a video. He did a podcast. Actually, the last 2 podcasts were on frames. Like, go and check it out. It's like marketing secrets podcast, and amazing podcast because he talks about how people think in frames, how the best marketers speak in frames, and how your frames are like this onion. Okay, it's like you can talk about your business for 30 seconds, you can talk about your business for 3 hours, you can talk about your business for 3 days, and when you really understand your frame and you own your frame. In this case, the frame was scaling profit and liability. Okay, like my frame is, why you need to own your domain name is the 7 dimensions. It's leadership, leverage, and scaling. Okay, I mean, you hear me talk about all this over and over and over again. My frame for branding, and for some domain valuations is raw equity, brand and equity, perceived equity. Okay, my frames, but you have to have a frame. If you don't have a frame, that's like the first step. You don't have a message. And you're all over the board, and so what happens is you're perceived as a novice, okay? And you're not perceived as someone who's an expert, you're not perceived as someone who speaks clearly, and it's very difficult to get a sale. It's very difficult to even communicate your message. Now, this is in all aspects. Whether you're in sales or you're not in sales, I mean, we're all in sales in one aspect or another, but you gotta have your frame. Like, what is it you're trying to communicate? And it'll be amazing as you go into a meeting, if you have this down, just how much more powerful your messaging truly is. Now, from there, we went to like, what's the buyer's journey? Like, do you even know the buyer's journey? Like, this is super important. And you hear people talk about this over and over and over again. Like, what's the journey that you're going on? Really, get in the head of who you're trying to sell to. Okay, I gotta make this quick. It's more than 3 minutes, and it's got to be under 9 minutes, 10 minutes for LinkedIn. But what's the buyer's journey? Okay. The buyer's journey for me is this: like, you have to see that you need a domain name. You have to see the pain. Okay, you have to understand the 7 dimensions of why domain name is important and why maybe you like not having the raw version of your brand. If you have a get or a my or the, why that is one of the biggest risks that you possibly have to your brand. Okay, you have to understand. If you don't see that, like, there's no sense in like even moving forward in negotiations or like scarcity reaction thresholds or all these other like different ways to communicate, because guess what? Like, you don't even want the product, okay? And so you haven't even raised your hand. So the first step is that for me. The second step is like self-belief and commitment, because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of investors, not necessarily investors, but companies. I'm more on the end user side of this equation, and they know they need it. But what happens is that they don't believe that they can utilize that. I could do a whole like series of videos just on this one thing, like self-belief, why self-belief is so important, okay? Now, that is why it's important to show other companies that have done something, right? You're showing examples, like, hey, well, look at this company, look at this company, look at this company, right? Testimonials, because it helps you to overcome that self-belief, okay? My third thing for me, or the third buyer's formula, this is actually the buyer's formula worked out for him, but the third buyer's formula for me was simply that they have to then try to acquire that. Okay, so they hire a broker like me to go after and get that domain name, or engage with me to buy that domain name. And then the fourth one is get it across the finish line, and then you go from pain to possibility. Now it's like, I never understood why this is important, but it's so important because you gotta know where your buyer is on this journey. Okay, now some of this journey, let's say in our industry specifically, if it's a $2,000 domain name, this is like zip, you just like zip through it, and you're like, I want it. I hate my job. I hate what I'm doing, and this is my business, and it's real, and boom, you buy it. Okay, if it's a $1 million domain name, this is a different equation. Okay, are you talking to the next step we went to here is we went to what's the market? Okay, you really can't. It's not really the best, but what's the market? What's the market for your product? Now, is it Fortune 500? Is it national? Is it regional? I break it down a little bit more as small business hobbyists. They're the ones that are buying the low end. But each of these people, you're gonna have to speak different to. Each of these people, each of these companies are gonna have a different buyer's formula potentially. Okay, they're all gonna have the same frame. Okay, but you're gonna talk to it a little bit differently because you're going to talk to it as far as who that person is. Okay, now for instance, if you're a Fortune 500 company and we're trying to sell you a domain name, it's much different than if it's like an entrepreneur that's just sweat and they've got blood and their life into this brand and this company. Okay, you might be more worried here about risk of presenting this idea to your management looking like an idiot. I don't know, right? There's consider the possibility, right? I mean, there's different ways that this is it. Okay, you're not as worried maybe about the total profitability because that's not what your concern is. Maybe your concern is just sales or marketing, or it's this one function, and you're not looking at the total impact to the total brand because that's just not what you are graded on. Okay, so this is super important to understand this. Okay, so then from there we went to what is the intro? The intro, okay? When you introduce yourself, how are you doing this? How are you establishing credibility? Yeah, it's interesting because Jordan Belfort, he talks about there's 3 things you have to hit in order to get the sale across the finish line. Okay, the first one is they gotta love your product, they gotta love you, and they gotta love your company. And I never understood this, okay? But it's interesting now because when I listen to the best salespeople in the world, and I do this over and over again, right? You listen to just the back end. I listen to the brokers, listen to other people. I mean, I talk to the best marketers in the world, some of the worst marketers in the world, and it's amazing how these different frames come up. Okay, Oren Klaff talks about the different frames, the flash roll, the status alignment. These different frames just come up, and framing the game as far as you being the expert. Okay, but you have to have this. They don't like your product, and you got to check in during this process. But super important here to look at how you're framing your game, explaining yourself, explaining the value that you bring, what you do for the company, and why why you're getting to this call. Now, this is 30 seconds. It kind of comes in from there. Then you go into asking questions and really kind of getting into is it a good fit? Is it a good fit or not? Right? And when you get this, you'd be surprised at how effortless it is to have a sales call. How effortless it is to sell your product, because first of all, you believe it, you know it, you got your frame, you understand the buyer's journey, you understand who you're talking to, right? And you have this sales script, okay, with Jordan Belfort. I didn't even get into Oren Klaff. Oren Klaff, I could do video, like a lot of videos just on how his philosophy has impacted me. Maybe I'll do that later on. But I'm coming up to my 10 minutes. Hope you enjoyed this today. Hope you're having a good Friday. Share this up if you haven't already done it. Go to chrisecker.com/survey. Take my survey. It's 5 questions. It'll give you my thoughts on what you should do for your domain name. And check my podcast out. Share it up. You just got done listening to another episode of .com Strategies. Check us out online at chriszeiker.com and at mediaoptions.com.